Have you ever wondered what it takes to rise above the sting of being looked down upon? To transform disdain into a stepping stone for strength? In a world where women often face judgment, dismissal, or outright scorn, the wisdom of ancient philosophers offers a timeless guide to not just survive, but thrive. These lessons, distilled from centuries past, speak directly to the heart of every woman seeking to claim her power, rewrite her story, and inspire the next generation. Through profound principles, rooted in real-life struggles and triumphs, we'll explore how you can stand tall, harness your inner resilience, and turn adversity into a force for growth. Imagine a young woman in rural Japan centuries ago, her hands rough from toil, her dreams stifled by a society that saw her as less. Or picture a mother in ancient China, widowed and penniless, fighting to feed her children while neighbors whispered her worthlessness. These women, though separated by time and place, share a common thread with countless others today: the weight of being underestimated. Yet from the teachings of the ancients, they found a way to rise. Their stories echo through history, proving that when the world tries to push you down, the truest strength comes from within. The first lesson rings clear: rely on yourself alone, for mountains crumble and people flee, but your own spirit endures. Think of a woman like Sojourner Truth, born into slavery in 1797, who refused to let chains, literal or societal, define her. When her enslavers sold her children away, she didn't wait for rescue. She walked to freedom, fought in courts dominated by men, and won her son back, a feat unheard of for a black woman in her time. The ancients taught that while kind souls may lift you momentarily, only you can pull yourself from the depths. Picture yourself stranded on a rain-soaked road, a heavy burden slipping from your grasp. A passerby might help, but if you stand idle expecting salvation, they'll pass you by. Self-reliance isn't just survival, it's the foundation of dignity. Consider a modern echo, a single mother in Detroit, juggling two jobs while her landlord sneers at her late rent. She could crumble under his gaze, but instead she enrolls in night classes, her tired eyes fixed on a degree that promises independence. The ancients knew this truth: waiting for others to save you breeds weakness, while standing firm builds unshakable resolve. When I think of my own moments of doubt, times when colleagues dismissed my ideas or friends questioned my choices, it was the quiet decision to trust myself that carried me forward. You too hold that power. No one else can walk your path, but you can pave it with courage. This lesson isn't abstract, it's etched into the lives of women who faced the unimaginable. Take Malala Yousafzai, shot by the Taliban at 15 for daring to demand education. She could have retreated into silence, leaning on the world's sympathy, but she didn't. She stood up, spoke louder, and became a beacon for girls everywhere. The ancients would nod in approval. True strength lies in lifting yourself when the ground beneath you shakes. So when life presses down, when voices tell you you're not enough, remember this: your worth isn't borrowed from others. It's forged in the fire of your own will. The second lesson cuts deeper: the more they disdain you, the more you must rise, fueled by your own wisdom. Picture a woman in Victorian England, her intellect mocked by men who deemed her frail mind unfit for philosophy. Yet someone like Mary Wollstonecraft refused to bow. In 1792, she penned a vindication of the rights of woman, a blazing call for equality that shook a world content to keep women silent. The ancients urged us to turn scorn into fuel, to let every slight sharpen our resolve. When others look down, they hand you a gift, the chance to prove them wrong, not with words, but with action. Think of a girl in a small Indian village today, her family scoffing at her dream to become a doctor. Girls don't do that, they say. But she studies by candlelight, her books worn from use, until she steps into a white coat, silencing their doubts. This is the alchemy of disdain, its raw material for transformation. I felt it myself when a professor once told me philosophy wasn't for women. I didn't argue. I wrote, I read, I excelled, letting my work speak louder than his prejudice. The ancients knew that wisdom, not brute force, topples ignorance. For every woman told she's too weak, too poor, to anything, this lesson whispers, your mind is your might. History brims with women who turned disdain into defiance. Consider Hypatia of Alexandria, a mathematician and philosopher in the 4th century, whose brilliance drew envy and violence from a patriarchal elite. They tore her apart, but her ideas endured, a testament to intellect over scorn. Or look to Frida Kahlo, her body broken by illness and accident, her art dismissed as feminine folly. She painted through the pain, her canvases screaming her worth to a world that tried to mute her. When you face contempt, don't shrink. Rise, armed with knowledge, and let your growth be your revenge. The third lesson is a stark warning: stay poor in spirit, and you'll stay poor in life. Change begins with effort. Imagine a woman in medieval Europe, a serf's daughter with no land, no title, no inheritance, her days spent in back-breaking labor, while the wealthy sneered at her tattered clothes. The ancients taught that poverty, whether of coin or courage, traps you only if you let it. Change demands sweat, grit, and a refusal to accept the hand you're dealt. This isn't about blaming the downtrodden, it's about igniting the spark within them. Think of a seamstress in Bangladesh today, her fingers calloused from endless stitching, earning pennies while factory owners thrive. She could resign herself to that fate, but instead she saves every scrap, learns to read, and opens a small shop, stitching her way to freedom. The story of the poor man gifted a cow by a wealthy neighbor, only to squander it, resonates here. In ancient China, a tale unfolds of a farmer given a chance to break his family's cycle of hunger. A kind landlord offers him a buffalo to plow fields, promising a harvest that could lift him up. At first he's elated, dreaming of full bellies and warm winters. But the buffalo needs feed, the work is hard, and soon he trades it for goats, then chickens, then a jug of wine, each step a slide back into despair. By spring he's drunk and destitute, the landlord shaking his head as he walks away. The ancients saw this, opportunity knocks, but only the persistent open the door. Contrast that with a woman like Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty in Mississippi in 1954, her childhood marked by abuse and scarcity. She didn't wait for a savior. She read voraciously, spoke with purpose, and clawed her way to a media empire, proving that effort, not entitlement, builds a legacy. For women everywhere, whether in a slum in Nairobi or a trailer park in Ohio, this lesson is a clarion call: don't let inertia chain you. The climb is steep, the falls hurt, but each step up is yours to claim. I've seen it in friends who've escaped toxic homes, their resolve hardening with every no they turned into a yes. You can too. The fourth lesson offers peace amid the storm. Know when to be content, and shame will never touch you. Know when to stop, and danger stays at bay. Picture a woman in ancient Greece, a merchant's wife whose husband's wealth brought her silks and status. But when he fell to ruin, creditors stripped her bare, and neighbors mocked her faded glory. The ancients advised contentment not as surrender, but as armor. By accepting what she could not change, she found strength to start anew, weaving baskets to feed her children, her dignity intact. This isn't about settling for less, it's about choosing battles wisely, preserving your spirit for what matters. Think of a woman in modern-day Syria, her home bombed to rubble, her family scattered. She could cling to rage, cursing fate, but instead she gathers what's left, her skills, her love, and builds a new life in a refugee camp, teaching girls to read. Contentment here isn't weakness, it's wisdom. I felt this myself, letting go of petty grudge, sold slights from peers or family, focusing instead on what fuels me, writing, learning, connecting. The ancients knew that endless craving breeds vulnerability, while measured acceptance breeds power. For women taught to chase perfection, perfect bodies, perfect homes, this lesson liberates. Enough is enough when you say it is. History gifts us examples of this quiet strength. Take Rosa Parks, who in 1955 refused to give up her bus seat in Montgomery, Alabama. She wasn't loud or brash, she was content in her rightness, her calm defiance sparking a movement. Or consider Wangari Maathai, Kenya's Green Belt movement founder, who planted trees against a government's scorn, her satisfaction rooted in each sapling's growth, not in applause, not in applause. When the world tempts you to overreach, to prove yourself beyond reason, this lesson steadies you, know your worth, and let it shine without force. These 4 lessons: self-reliance, rising through wisdom, relentless effort, and contented resolve, are relics of a dusty past. They're a living philosophy, a roadmap for women navigating a world that still, too often, seeks to diminish them. Let's weave them into the fabric of today, threading through the lives of women and girls who refuse to be defined by us eyes. Take a moment to picture a classroom in rural Pakistan, where a girl named Aisha sits, her notebook smudged from use, her teacher a woman who once fled an arranged marriage. Aisha's father scoffs at her studies, calling them a waste for a future wife. But her teacher, echoing the ancients, tells her, depend on yourself, let their scorn sharpen your mind, work until you break free, and find peace in your own path. Aisha listens, her pencil moving faster, her dreams growing bolder. This is philosophy in action, empowering not just one woman, but the children she lifts with her. Or consider Maria, a factory worker in Mexico, her hands stained from dye, her wages barely covering rent. Her supervisor mocks her accent, her co-workers whisper she'll never rise. But Maria remembers stories of women like her grandmother, who survived war by trusting her own hands. She saves, she learns English online, she pushes past exhaustion, and one day she's managing the line, her quiet pride a rebuke to every sneer. The ancients' wisdom isn't locked in books, it's alive in her, in you, in every woman who dares to rewrite her fate. This journey isn't solitary. Communities amplify these lessons, turning individual resilience into collective power. In Senegal, women's savings groups pool pennies to fund girls' schooling, each coin a defiance of poverty's grip. In Appalachia, mothers teach daughters to hunt and farm, passing down self-reliance like an heirloom. These networks, often invisible to the powerful, are where philosophy meets flesh and blood, where women hold each other up, proving the ancients right. Strength begins within, but it flourishes together. Let's linger on education, the thread that ties these lessons to freedom. For centuries, women were denied it, barred from schools, ridiculed for curiosity. Yet figures like Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz, a 17th-century Mexican nun, defied that fate. Forbidden formal study, she taught herself in secret, her poetry and essays challenging a church that sought to silence her. Today, education remains a battleground. Girls in Afghanistan risk death for it. Mothers in Brazil sacrifice meals to buy books. The ancients saw knowledge as liberation, a tool to break chains, and for women, it's a birthright too long withheld. Reflect on a girl in Chicago's South Side, her school underfunded, her neighborhood loud with violence. She finds a library book, maybe Marcus Aurelius, maybe Nietzsche, and reads of self-overcoming, of a transcending circumstance. She's not just studying, she's arming herself, her mind a fortress against despair. This is what philosophy offers women, not escape, but empowerment, a lens to see beyond the immediate, to shape a future where children inherit possibility, not limits. The struggles of women and children intertwine here, a philosophical dance of resilience and hope. Think of a mother in Vietnam, her back bent from rice fields, her daughters laugh to her only reprieve. She works so that girl can study, whispering tales of ancient wisdom. You are your own mountain, your own river. The daughter grows, becomes a teacher, and lifts others, a ripple from one woman's resolve. Nietzsche's Ber Mensch, the self-overcoming ideal, finds echo in her, not as a lofty concept, but as lived truth, a woman crafting her destiny against the odds. Societal norms, those invisible bars, press hardest on women and children. In India, a widow is shunned, a worth tied to a husband's breath. In America, a girl's ambition is softened with be nice, be small. The ancients rejected such chains, urging individual will over collective dogma. Consider Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who in 1848 declared women's rights at Seneca Falls, her voice trembling but firm, defying a nation's norms. Or Ruby Bridges, 6 years old, walking past hate-filled crowds to integrate a school, her tiny steps shattering a system's lies. These women, young and old, embody the eternal recurrence. Nietzsche spoke of not a literal loop, but a challenge. Face each moment as if it's yours to conquer, again, again. Freedom isn't handed over, it's seized. For women, it's a philosophical journey from oppression to agency, a path the ancients illuminated. Picture a refugee mother in Greece, her child clinging to her skirt, her past a blur of war. She doesn't beg, she barters skills sewing, cooking, building a life from scraps. Her daughter watches, learning that power isn't bestowed, it's made. This is human agency, not waiting for permission, but acting, creating, becoming. The ancients' lessons fuel this fire, urging every woman to claim her space, her voice, her right to be. Let's pause on resilience, the heartbeat of these teachings. In 1940s Poland, a Jewish woman named Irena Send-Elia smuggled 2,500 children from the Warsaw Ghetto, risking torture and death. Caught, beaten, her legs broken, she never broke. The Nazis saw weakness in her gender, she saw strength in her will. Her story mirrors the ancients' call to rise above, to work tirelessly, to find contentment in purpose. For every woman facing abuse, poverty, or doubt, Irena whispers, you are enough, and you can endure. This isn't just history, it's now. In Yemen, girls marry young, their childhoods traded for survival. Yet, some rebels secretly learning, hiding books, dreaming of more. In Texas, a teen mother drops out, then returns, diploma in hand, her baby's future her fuel. These women live the ancients' wisdom, their resilience a bridge from despair to dignity. Philosophy isn't a luxury for them, it's a lifeline, a way to see themselves as agents, not victims, their potential unbound by circumstance. The subconscious mind, a quiet force, hums beneath these lessons. Nietzsche's will to power isn't brute force, it's the inner drive to shape your world. Think of a woman in therapy, unraveling years of you etched into her psyche. She rewrites that script, her subconscious shifting from fear to fire. The ancients didn't name it, but they felt it. Self-belief turns thought into action. For women long taught to doubt, this is revolutionary reclaiming of the mind, where true freedom begins. Communities bolster this inner shift. In Rwanda, genocide widows formed cooperatives, weaving baskets and stories of survival, their hands healing their hearts. In Harlem, girls join poetry slams, their words defying a world that dims their light. These spaces humble, fierce echo the ancients' call to stand together, to lift each other when the load grows heavy. Philosophy thrives here, not in ivory towers, but in the grit of shared struggle, where women and children find their footing. Let's circle back to education's role, a thread Nietzsche might have woven into his Our Mensch. In 19th century Britain, girls like Ada Lovelace, barred from universities, taught themselves math, her algorithms birthing modern computing. Today, a girl in Somalia walks miles to a makeshift school, her hijab dusty, her resolve iron. Education isn't just facts, it's philosophy in motion, teaching women to question, to create, to lead. It's the tool that breaks societal chains, handing children a legacy of possibility. The intersection of freedom, gender, and learning pulses with life. In ancient Sparta, women trained alongside men, their strength prized, not pitied. Contrast that with Victorian courts binding breath and spirit alike. Philosophy, whether Laoti's use calm or Nietzsche's fire, offers a third way, freedom through self-definition. A woman in Iran today, her art banned, paints in secret, her brush a rebellion. Her daughter sees, learns, and one day teaches. This is the journey from oppression's shadow to empowerment's light, each step a philosophical act. Resilient stories abound, each a testament to these lessons. Take Harriet Tubman, escaping slavery in 1849, then risking all to free others, her faith and grit a shield against terror. Or Aung San Suu Kyi, under house arrest in Myanmar, her quiet resolve outlasting a junta's might. These women didn't just survive, they reshaped their worlds, their children's worlds, proving the ancients right. Adversity is the forge, and you are the smith. For modern women, these lessons aren't distant echoes, they're daily bread. A coder in Silicon Valley, her ideas stolen by male peers, codes harder, her app topping charts. A farmer in Peru, hurled threatened, organizes women to fight back, their harvest to victory. Philosophy empowers them not as theory, but as practice, a way to navigate a world that still tilts against them. It's in their hands, their voices, their refusal to bend. Children watch, absorbing this strength. A boy in Brooklyn sees his mother leave an abuser, her head high, and learns respect isn't forced. A girl in Ghana sees her aunt build a clinic, her sweat saving lives, and dreams beyond the village. The ancients' wisdom, passed through women, shapes the next generation, a cycle of empowerment that defies time. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence asks, could you live this life again, every pain and joy? For women, it's not hypothetical. Each day repeats the fight against disdain, against limits, and each day they answer yes, with action, with will. A mother in Ukraine, her city shelled, teaches her kids in a basement, her voice steady. She's not just enduring, she's overcoming, her life a yes to existence itself. This isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. The ancients didn't promise ease, they promised power to those who claim it. A woman in prison, her past a blur of mistakes, writes letters to her daughter, urging her to rise. She stumbles, but she stands, her flaws part of her strength. Philosophy doesn't erase struggle, it equips you to face it, head on, heart open. Let's end where we began, with you. You reading this carry these lessons in your bones. The world may scorn, may doubt, may press you down, but within you burns a fire the ancients fanned, a fire of self-reliance, wisdom, effort, and peace. Think of a woman you know, her quiet triumphs a thread in this tapestry. Think of a child, her future yours to shape. These 4 lessons aren't just words, they're a call to rise, to lead, to be the woman who changes everything, starting with herself.